Hi, Zizaran here with another Path of Exile video, this time talking a little bit about predictions for the upcoming Scourge League and yeah, just what I think they're gonna do with buffs and stuff like that. So we already have a video talking about what nerfs I think will happen or are the most likely. Just wanted to talk a little bit about things that are coming in terms of buffs. Well, Fortify, it could be in the nerf video or in the buff video because we don't really fully know what is happening to Fortify, but they have said that they are reworking it. My guess is that Fortify is going to get reworked very similar to how Cruelty is, that you need to end up like actually dealing a decent amount of damage. I'm a little bit worried about what they're going to do with Vigilant Strike. Is Vigilant Strike still going to be something casters have the ability to swap to? I mean, that's not entirely unreasonable. That does end up being like a very high like skill-based thing, right? It's very hard for somebody to have the capacity to, in the middle of a fight, weapon swap, use Vigilant Strike, and swap back and continue dealing damage, especially in harder fights like the Feared. We obviously see a lot of people doing that in the Gauntlet, so maybe that'll be something they leave in, maybe not. It's going to be very interesting to see how Vigilant Strike in particular gets affected by this. But Fortify seems like they want to move away from casters having it for free, basically, with things like shield charge, etc., or just easy ways. So we'll see what they end up doing. It'll be very interesting. And the reason why I bring it up in the buff video is I wouldn't be surprised if they actually end up making it slightly stronger, but melee specific. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I think it is a bit delusional of me to think that they will buff it, but obviously casters are losing Fortify. So what are casters going to get in return? Maybe we'll end up seeing a caster specific Fortify version or something. Like, maybe I'm like wishful thinking here, but they have to give something back to casters. If not, everyone's going to be melee again, and it's going to be Slam League. But hopefully they'll give something back to casters. I would love to see a buff to Zibakwa. It's a Timeless Legion jewel thing. Get protection against elemental damage. And I think it got nerfed too hard before. I think it's already something that is very, very good because it requires such a big investment. And I would want to see more similar defenses getting buffed to be like kind of similar to Transcendence. Transcendence is very strong, but it requires a very large investment to get working. I would also like to see a small buff to Glancing Blows. I think that's a little bit bad right now, where it's pretty much only viable with Life on Block. It would be good if it was viable without Life on Block. Of Doriani Timeless Jewel as well. With the Life as extra energy shield, that would also be nice to get a buff. So definitely a lot of the Timeless Legion jewels would be good. I would love to see a defensive keystone up north. That would be, like, obviously we have Agnostic, but that's more against like degens and damage over time. Doesn't really give you any raw effective HP, but I would love to see something, some buffs up there in defense. We're going to see Flasks. Flasks are going to be reworked. Now, that doesn't necessarily always mean a buff, but I think everyone will agree that Flasks have never really been in a great spot in Path of Exile. And the way I feel about Flasks is I'm happy they're doing something with it, but I do think it'll take them a very long time to get it right. So that'll be very interesting to see. I think at the start of this league, Flasks felt really bad. I hope they can make them feel at least good again. Movement skills, I am hoping and praying that honestly they should just straight up revert movement skills. I think that was like the worst thing they possibly did. And the reason for that is movement skills already felt in a really, really good spot. Ever since they made Flame Dash and things like that be instant on the first one, it just feels so good. It makes you feel like you have so much like control over boss fights and what is happening. I think it's a really, really good system with the like there's a small cooldown on the second one being instant. And yeah, big fan of what they've done there. I really, really like it. So personally, really hope that they will go back towards that. I think currently, I mean, obviously we can adapt as players, right? Like we've seen several players, like high skilled players, die to it and say, fuck, I should have adapted. And sure, you can adapt, but I would rather they just make it feel good. Like, it's important that movement feels good in a game, and having several like speedrunners and stuff be like, okay, you know what, I'm no longer interested speedrunning this game, it just doesn't feel good anymore, is a pretty bad sign. So obviously as players we can just, you know, get good, get better, and improve. Again, I would much rather see like a big improvement in that, because it's important that such a core thing feels great for a player to use. You want to feel like you're mobile and active. Maybe it needs an investment, like Lightning Warp. Maybe not as much as Lightning Warp, but at least Lightning Warp feels good with an investment. Flame Dash and the whole like second wind thing, I think that was very strange. Second wind is like kind of a dead gem now. What about builds? What builds do we think is going to get buffed? I would love personally to see Cracklands getting buffed, because right now the problem with Cracklands, and don't get me wrong, you can do everything in the game with Cracklands. I would just love to see Cracklands doing something different, like Arc and Ball Lightning, right? They're both clearly very different skills, but Cracklands right now doesn't really stand out. It doesn't really do anything special. So I would personally love to see Cracklands getting, obviously it has slightly different effects already, but like it needs something extra. It really needs to stand out, like a third way of approaching a problem. So I would love like that specifically skill, but like skills aside, and obviously there are loads of like dead skills that could do with a buff and a rotation. Reaper would be cool to see a buff. However, we did end up seeing sort of at the end of the league quite a lot of like decent Reaper builds. They did require quite a lot of investment, and I think it's a bit of a software problem, because Reaper builds ended up being very popular on hardcore, because you can still like get an insanely strong Reaper that ends up killing Feared in a few seconds. It's obviously a big investment. The problem is, because of the Necromantic Aegis and softcore, Spectres end up being so much better. So seeing something that makes Reaper a little bit more viable with a lower investment early on would be really, really cool. And it's so hard to beat Necromantic Aegis on softcore. And for those that are playing softcore and maybe don't know, it's very hard to give up our shield on hardcore. Because of things like life gain on block, it's such a defensive, powerful thing for us that we really need to keep that. So that's what I would love to see. Specifically, Reaper is just such a cool thing, and I would love to see it getting more use. And I think the thing that I want to get buffed the most, more than anything, and this is a very close to my heart thing here, and that's Animate Weapon. It's just not really been in a good spot. It got nerfed quite a lot repeatedly, and I think Animate Weapon is the thing that really deserves to be strong at the things it does. Because Anime Weapon is generally never a build that you can do everything with. Anime Weapon is very specific, like, oh, it's good at mapping, it's good at bursting on a boss that has no stages, but it's not necessarily good unless you specifically go Pathfinder and make it very clunky, very softcore as well, obviously. It's never been good at things like bosses, right? It used to have, when I played it, it would have 20 to 25 million DPS. It was amazing at Breach Lords, but it was terrible at Shaper. And I think there should be room for builds like that are maybe like outclassing everything else, but just has things it can't do. I feel like when there is a build that has that, it should get rewarded for it, and I would love to see that. It's also just a very cool thing. It's like a less clunky dominating blow, and it's just cool to have an army with you that you convocate on a boss and you just blast it away. But what about ascendancies? Honestly, the ones that I'm hoping for a buff to the most is Inquisitor, Elementalist, maybe even Juggernaut. I would love to see Juggernaut being a little bit more meta. It's always seen some play, but I would love to see Juggernaut getting a lot of love. Inquisitor got way too much of a nerf with the whole like ailment immune on an ascendancy that like finally got used again. It's my favorite ascendancy, so I'm very biased here. I just think the idea behind Inquisitor is very cool. I would personally love to see a big buff to Battle Mage and making that a lot less clunky. Like being able to get to the point where you comfortably have 100% uptime on the buff thing there. But yeah, that Battle Mage side is a little weird in my opinion. I've not really been a fan of that. I think it's a really cool idea, and I think it was cool to play with it. I remember I did a character with it, and it was so fun to play with, to be honest. It was so fun to play with. All in all, they're also going to be adding endgame Uber content, they've called it. So we've already seen a Uber content being teased, and that is a flawless breachstone. A new step. Instead of it being a pure breachstone, now we have, like, the other ones are still staying presumably, but we have a fourth step, and it's rare monsters drop 2 additional reward types. Area has 4 additional random modifiers, which could be insanely dangerous. Monster level 84, that means that you're going to get item level 86 bases from this. 200% increased experience gain on top of the fact that it's already level 84. 250% monster life, 60% rarity, 60% pack size. And this could end up being an absolute clusterfuck. And we see things like Chaos Pen, extra fire, fire resist, like very, very intense, probably. I don't necessarily think the boss is going to be the hardest part here. The reason I would say such a statement is because when we saw normal Chayula go to pure, it's never like the Chayula itself that is the dangerous part. I would say like a Chayula is probably the breachstone that gets less affected by being upgraded. Honestly, I would be a lot more worried about flawless Ash or Ulnatul because they are already very low level breachstones and the scaling gets a lot higher. Normal Chayula is already like 81 or 82, so going from 82 to 84 or to 83, I don't know. At least the way they've been doing it with the currently, pure Chayula was never scary. And I don't necessarily... Maybe they will make Flawless Chayula an actual boss fight. I think that would be great. Maybe make it drop things that are only from Flawless Chayula and give it a few extra moves. Make it... kind of needs a bigger arena, in my opinion, if you're going to do that as well. But make it more of a Shaper or Elder fight. But if it's just a numbers increase, then Flawless Chayula is not something I'm going to be scared of. Hopefully, 3.16 proves me wrong and I end up dying to it. That would be really, really cool in my opinion. Again, Flawless of the other Brave Swords, terrified. I think that's going to be very scary because the pure ones there are very dangerous. And I would love to see what other Uber content they are going to be doing, like Uber Blights, Uber Expeditions. I would love to see more Uber content. I think it's like the coolest thing to aspire to do, and that's why they call it aspirational content. I think that would make a lot of people really enjoy the league too. Every time you've seen like things like this added to the game, like Maven, Awakener, and the Conquerors, Uber Elder, that's when you've seen the most amount of retention, the people playing the most. People feel like there's really something new to explore. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in 3.17. But if they're adding Uber content already in 3.16, it bodes really well for retention and people really enjoying the league. That's all I have to talk about. There's going to be later today, they're going to be doing a manifesto. If it's not too late, I'll be live for that, or I'll be doing it early in the morning, like 10 a.m. UK time, and going over that. But either way, hope you guys enjoy these predictions. Let me know what you think. Let me know your predictions in the comment down below. I want to hear what you guys think. Several times we've had people guess it right in the comments, whereas I haven't always, and would love to see what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.